How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, riding solo and slightly miserable tonight. It is my Sunday recap of the events that went down today in the NFL. Quite an eventful day. Definitely a day for the underdogs, as today we saw not only the Philadelphia Eagles, but the San Francisco 49ers both meet defeat for the first time this season. There is no longer any undefeated teams currently in the National Football League. And as a Giant fan, I got to say, man, it's been torturous looking at the ways the Giants have lost games. Undeniably, their best performance for a full 4 quarters of the season, despite losing to a superior Buffalo Bills team, a Bills team that Wink Martindale really had every answer for the majority of the game. But this is what I got. Going to let the viewers read all of this down below. Turning point in the game, undeniably up 6-0 going into the half, and basically Buffalo having zero momentum on offense. Tyrod Taylor very mysteriously called an audible to run the ball with 14 seconds left in the game at the snap with no timeouts left. I do not understand why it's not a throw. It has to be a throw when you have no timeouts. Too many things could go wrong. And I also question why the New York Giants decided to call a timeout, their final timeout, with 30 seconds left. You're not leaving much room for error when you do stuff like that. And it bit the Giants in the end because after receiving a pass interference against the Bills to set them up at the 1-yard line with no time on the clock left, that would have essentially been a game-winning field goal had they ultimately gotten 3 or better. Or better means you win the game. But, bad teams find ways to lose, and that's what happened. The New York Giants are not a good football team still. Makeshift O-line. I will say this, though. I've got to give credit to recently off the couch, Justin Pugh. The dude's supposed to be playing on the inside. He gets thrust into having to play left guard. He did an admirable job. I think Mike Lewinsky did his absolute best. Mark Lewinsky did his absolute best. And Saquon Barkley, as the game started to move along, definitely getting his legs back. But another similar result. I think Tyrod Taylor, all in all, looked better than he has in a while. Jose, what's up, bro? Yeah, we probably did get gypped. But the bottom line is, man, you can't put the game in the hands of the referees and expect that result to not go down. I could get into a big monologue about how I feel that Vegas and these referees are having a really ugly hand in a lot of the outcomes of these NFL games. It's getting to a point where it's not becoming enjoyable for fans. And I'm not talking about the 50-50 calls. I'm talking about some of the most obvious shit that they refuse to acknowledge as the stuff's coming up. But New York Giants dropped to 1-5. The only positive I could take away from this is that I feel that the team played for a full 4 quarters. And I'm with you, bro. Yeah, it does suck. But, it's out of our power and it's out of our hands as sports fans and as fanaticos, as a lot of us are. It's something that you have to accept or just you're gonna be very unhappy a lot of times. And I've gotten to that point where when it comes to sports and knowing that the money that's involved in it, these things happen. And anybody that's in delusion to think that everything's always on the up and up, look no further than what happened with Tim Donaghy in the NBA. The man went to prison, for fixing games. And this is something that happened back in the day in college. It has happened. Am I going to accuse the NFL of having scripts? I don't know about all that, but I'm just going to say it's not all the way on the up and up. And it is what it is. Sometimes it benefits our teams. Sometimes it doesn't. That's as far as I choose to go on that tonight. In England, to not much of my surprise, Baltimore Ravens picking up a win over the Tennessee Titans. And very much so a field goal game as I forecasted. Tennessee Titans, their offense is just so broken right now. And I don't know how Ryan Tannehill is still their starter, but he is. And until they find a sufficient improvement to replace him, this is going to be what you see. Derrick Henry, many years squandered there. I hope for his sake that he moves on to greener pastures while he still has some left in the tank. But that team is just awful. And I don't know if Mike Vrabel, if it's going to cost him his job. I don't know if it's a bigger philosophy with the organization, but I think their best peak in this era of Titans football is already behind them. I want to slap myself in the face for this, though. Definitely wanted to pick the Cleveland Browns in my weekly pick'ems. Unbeknownst to me, Deshaun Watson was a no-go. I wasn't aware of the severity, and I allowed myself to get talked out of not taking them in a game that if Watson started, I actually think they were going to win. Shout out Mike Zappi. Shout out the crew. We all agree that the Cleveland Browns do possess a championship caliber defense, which makes it very intriguing in a very hard to figure AFC North. Because, a lot of those teams can turn it on defensively. I happen to believe that from a talent-based standpoint, Cleveland might have the best defense in that division. Yeah, bro. Indeed. Philadelphia Eagles, that was more shocking to me, them getting beat the way they did. Before I move it along, gotta say, Brock Purdy finally lost a game that he actually finished. His only career loss was the NFC title game prior to this. He got the L for starting. He got injured early. We know the story. Finally catches an L. Still very impressive. This is a small blip for the 49ers. If I'm a Niners fan, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over this. Just notch it up as a good one. Chilling, bro. Just watching some of these games. Honestly, was watching on YouTube TV on my app on the phone, running around all day. Got to watch the entirety of the Giants game. And no, I'm not upset. I have accepted that the Giants are who they are this year, and injuries has just completely decimated any real chances of having a functional offense. Jacksonville Jaguars welcoming back Gardner Minshew. They got the early season sweep on the Indianapolis Colts, which is huge going into the second half of the year in a few weeks. And the implications that having a tiebreaker is. In the standings, it says one game. It's really essentially two games. And that is absolutely huge for the Jacksonville Jaguars. As the Eagles go, Jalen Hurts has made some reckless decisions that didn't cost his team football games this year. Today it did. I think what's most impressive is that the Jets did this without Sauce Gardner and obviously without AR8. Aaron Rodgers got hurt 4 plays into the season. Going into the year, the New York Jets were actually my Super Bowl pick to represent the AFC. I will be there, sir. Yeah, man. Damn right it's going to get tough. Nothing easy about the slate of an NFL season. This weekend was definitely crazy. I think I did well for once. Yeah, pick'ems have been tough on me, and I'm usually a frequent winner, but I have not enjoyed winning this year in my buddies' pick'em pools. Getting back to the Eagles, they got to get back to the drawing board. I have alluded to this on many a show that I do believe that they have gotten away with not playing crisp football because of the fact that their offensive line is still excellent. They know how to play with a lead for the most part. Today, that was not indicative of what I just said. They blew an early lead, 14-3, second quarter. They lose the game to the Jets. I want to talk about the Jets for a second, though. This is a football team that does not have, in my opinion, the best quarterback play, and that's putting it politely. But when you consider that they are 3-3 and have victories over the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles this early in the year, and Aaron Rodgers has had no contribution, in the event that Aaron Rodgers could potentially return a little early, let's say maybe December, late in the year, get in for the playoff run, I think the New York Jets are still very much a threat to pretty much anybody. This is a team that also should have beaten the Chiefs were it not for a controversial call. New York Jets are a good team right now. And it's crazy how it plays out. They got a win over Buffalo, win over Philly. Their one losses to the Patriots, but they just can't beat the Patriots no matter what year it is, unless you're talking about 2010, last time that they actually had multiple wins against the New England Patriots. But from what I see right now, regardless of how things played out in Cleveland, I still think the 49ers are the most complete team in the NFL until somebody proves me wrong. And as far as tomorrow night's game goes, huge opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys to cut that lead. They have not squared up with Philly yet, but potentially getting a win against a Chargers team that has not been very thorough out of the gates, that's huge. And for the Chargers, it's also huge because they have an opportunity to get back-to-back wins. They are well rested. They're coming off a bye. And that's what I got right now. I mean, Giants, Bears, Patriots, all teams that are going to have second and third guesses about what they're doing in the quarterback room. While Daniel Jones does have a hefty salary, the way that a lot of that deal is appropriated, while I still think they overpaid on some metrics of the deal, they could get out of it after the 2024 season. And I believe that there is a 50-50 that could happen because I got to be honest. What I saw Tyrod Taylor do tonight, and we know who Tyrod Taylor is. He's a career backup at this juncture, but a very functional one. I feel that he played better with that makeshift offensive line than Jones has all year. And I also believe that the Giants showed some serious fight tonight, something that looked more reminiscent of the team that they were last year. I like that they were starting to feature Darren Waller in the passing game down the stretch. And at the end of the day, even though a loss is a loss, they did get to the 1-yard line before getting defeated. Definitely a gut punch for the fans. I think I'm impervious to feeling any pain with the Giants at this point just because of what I've seen, not just this season, but over the course of the last decade or so, with exception of 2016 and last year's magical run. But I do believe that with the soft schedule coming up for the Giants, they can kind of get back to respectability, which leads me to believe that they're not going to be in on Caleb Williams. There's going to be another quarterback potentially. And there's other things that this team has to address. Azeez Ojulari can no longer be trusted. He's always injured. They have to start thinking about the next pass rusher that they're going to pair with Kayvon because it's not Azeez. I do think they have some pieces. And if there's something to feel good about tonight, Bobby Okereke had a game. One of the best games I've seen played at that linebacker position. Probably got to go back to Adrian, excuse me. You probably got to go back to our AP. Pierce, I'm talking about. I got tongue-tied there for a second. But Antonio Pierce is the last linebacker in recent Giants memory that put on a performance like that. You got to go back a significant ways. Because the Giants, in addition to having O-line struggles, have also had issues with having adequate linebackers. But I do like what I've seen today from them. And, they were getting heat on Josh Allen, making him uncomfortable. Diggs is a great player. He made some great plays. It's going to happen. But if the Giants proved anything tonight, it's that they're not as bad as their record. But as Coach Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are. And speaking of poor quarterback play, you got to really feel for the New England Patriots. It's just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. My co-host Idris Salam definitely made me laugh today when he said that they gave up on a former league MVP, that being Cam Newton, for Mac Jones. If you want to revisit 2020 for a second, Cam Newton was actually playing at a high level before contracting the COVID virus and honestly just losing his way in that final chance to really be a starter. He did get another crack with the Carolina Panthers, but, he hasn't been that dude for quite some time. He hasn't been Superman for quite some time. I think the Super Bowl loss to the Denver Broncos, it all snowballed after that. But I have a hard time believing that a guy like Cam Newton right now isn't a better choice than Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi for that matter, the guy that backs him up. New England Patriots, it's a far cry from what they got used to for the better part of 2 decades, having the great Tom Brady in there. And, Bill Belichick has always provided those Patriot teams great defenses, and I also think that they don't get enough credit over the years because, the quarterbacks take all the heat. They also get all the credit. It's just part of the nature of the beast. Been a fan since 85. So I've witnessed every single thing imaginable. This game. Oh, well, I don't see why it wouldn't, bro. But like anything else, the losses are piling, and it's going to take a gargantuan effort for them to even consider sniffing the playoffs. And I'm just kind of accepting that it's just not their year. Giant fans definitely want to talk about it, though. So if you guys run into the show in the morning, I know it's a little late. It was kind of improv to go on. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this mess right now. Giants showed some life, but like I said, it's a familiar feeling and a familiar reality that the Giants getting beat. Make no mistake about it. In MetLife Stadium right now, whether I want to admit this or not, Gang Green is a better team than New York Football Giants. And I do want to hit on Brian Dable. Last year, NFL Coach of the Year, a guy that I genuinely like, and I don't just say that because he coaches my favorite football team. But I must admit, through the course of the first 6 weeks, I feel that Dable gets himself in a lot of situations where he emotionally makes decisions that don't help the football team. I understand that there was a confusion with he and Tyrod, but personally, when you're calling a timeout with 30 seconds left, I think you're panicking in the first half I'm referring to. It came back to bite because it leaves no margin for error. Tyrod, what he did, inexcusable. Calling a run play, when you don't have any timeouts. So it's either touchdown or bust. They needed that field goal. They get that field goal, they win the game at the end with another field goal, or at least a field goal attempt. You can't account for a bad snap or a block. Point is, that's how it should have played out. It didn't. And as I alluded to already, bad teams find ways to lose. Good teams find ways to win. Eagles fans, I'd be a little worried. 49er fans, I wouldn't be worried much at all. I think it's a credit to the Cleveland Browns having a championship caliber defense. Same goes for the New York Jets. But through 6 weeks, not quite at the midway point yet, it's very interesting to see where these races are going. I also want to give a shout out to the Detroit Lions. They continue to impress me and show that they are literally a real contender. I remember in a group chat going into the season, I told some of my friends how I thought the Lions could actually be the 1 seed, and I got almost laughed out of the chat. It comes down to a few variables. Their division is not that great. They've improved immensely, and they can play with damn near anybody right now. And they're not the same old Lions that we're used to seeing. I also think that the team that they tangled with today is actually a team that, in my opinion, will end up winning that NFC South. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still going to end up winning that. Atlanta Falcons starting to come down to earth a little, losing a close one today. Washington Commanders, I think we're going to beat them next week. And that ain't saying much, because that'll mean we're 2-5 next week. But Daniel Jones looks to start next week. While I was encouraged by some of the plays that Tyrod Taylor was able to extend, I don't necessarily think he gives us a better chance to win than Jones does. You paid the man. He's going to be the guy that suits up, and I understand that part of it. But I'm just going to say this on the air early in advance. I think the New York Giants will handle the Washington Commanders next week to get their second win. But through the first 6 weeks, the way I look at it, the way I see it, and I'm being very honest when I say this, I think the two best teams in the NFC right now are the San Francisco 49ers and the Detroit Lions, not the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions. AFC's been a little tougher to figure. I'll put it to you like this. If Aaron Rodgers was healthy, I think the Jets are the best team in the AFC. But they're 3-3. They're fighting. Coach Robert Saleh, who is definitely going to be a candidate for Coach of the Year, as he should be, getting the most out of this team. It's been a question flirted on my show for a while. Is Bill Belichick finally going to hang it up, or is he going to be asked by the organization to hang it up? I've been saying for multiple years that I don't think Bill Belichick should be running the team on all the levels that he is. I think that the GM hat has passed him by. I don't think that metric of it works anymore for that organization. And I also think it's an uncomfortable position probably for Bob Kraft and co. to be in, because this is a man who is directly linked to all the beautiful banners that you have in that stadium. I don't always think it's fair that he gets ridiculed on the sense of like, this man can't win without Tom Brady. There's a lot of variables that go into why the Patriots won those championships. And as I already alluded to, having all those great defenses over the years definitely was a huge contributor. When you hold the greatest show on turf to 17 points for your first Super Bowl in your franchise's history, and then years later, your most recent Super Bowl, you hold the Los Angeles Rams now. They were in St. Louis when they were the greatest show to 3 points, and they were one of the most explosive offenses in the league that year. Those are two glaring examples of how important their defense was, not to mention the Malcolm Butler pick against the Seattle Seahawks, not to mention holding league MVP and the Atlanta Falcons at bay in the second half, overcoming a massive 25-point deficit Yeah, the New England Patriots defense over the dynasty years does not get enough credit. We all know about what they did in '07, breaking all kinds of records, which was later broken by a Denver team. We all know about how good that 2010 defense was that lost to the Jets. Offense, excuse me. But the point is, there's so much more than blame to be bestowed on one guy. But Bill Belichick is still there, so I understand that he's going to get the heat. I think that if they do move on from Bill, it's going to be with dignity. I don't think that it's going to be like a shitty way, like the way the New York Giants got rid of Tom Coughlin, which I think was incredibly unceremonious. And, the Giants paid for a while because things haven't been right completely since they let Coach Coughlin go. And we've seen it with other teams too. Dallas getting rid of Tom Landry, that was kind of egregious the way they went about it, and there's other stories similar to that. Have a good night. Appreciate you hanging with me, Jose. I'm not far behind you, bro. I want to hit on this Texas Rangers victory over the Houston Astros, and I'm going to call it a night as well. Before I do, Miami Dolphins sleepwalking thoroughly through the first half just goes to show you how quick they can strike when they got their head on right. Mike McDaniel, the furthest thing from what a head coach you would think looks like, but that dude can call some plays. And, they woke up. And I thought it was very classy of Tua Tagovailoa after the game, consoling Bryce Young. Tua's a good guy, man. A true professional. Really good guy. And got a lot of respect for him. I'm happy that he's been able to be upright. Scary scene in the Giant game. Damian Harris going down. It looks like he's going to be all right, but it was definitely scary seeing the guy get a neck injury and, kind of eerie. As football fans, we're not far removed from the very scary scene in Cincinnati in the Damar Hamlin game. But, best wishes to Damian Harris and those who care about him, obviously his family. I don't give a damn about what team or whatever. You never want to see that happen. And I'm, very hopeful that he's going to make a full recovery, but that was very scary. Anything with the neck, very scary. I want to hit on the Texas Rangers for a moment. Jordan Montgomery, Yankee fans. We know, mixed bag when he was with us. He put on a performance for the ages tonight against a very familiar foe in the Houston Astros. And I guess Yankee fans, I'm asking a question, and then I'm going to talk about the Rangers. Is he worth bringing back? It's always important to have a lefty in the rotation. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this from a very sincere place. I believe that the Yankees should consider it. We're going to see if we go to Japan for help. There's rumors. We're going to see what happens there. Rodon was a big miss. Nestor Cortez was injured. Garrett Cole, Cy Young caliber season, going to win the Cy. Clark Schmidt, promising. Back to the Rangers. It's their time, guys. I picked Rangers in 7. Idris picked Rangers in 6. I don't know what Zappy picked them in, but I know he picked them to win because they're his team. Really amazing to see what Jordan Montgomery did tonight. And not just with the pitching, just some of the fielding and just seeing guys really sell out defensively to maintain that lead. It's what playoff baseball is all about. And tomorrow we're going to see what the Phillies and Diamondbacks bring. But if these MLB playoffs have taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected. I appreciate you guys spending this late hour on an improv show with me. If you haven't already, please make it a point to like and subscribe to the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. And I will probably be back maybe Tuesday morning, maybe late Monday night to give you my rundown of last night's Monday night game. Normally, I reserve these shows for the next morning, but I got a very busy morning and I needed to, from a healthy standpoint, just kind of vent out some of my frustrations and just some of my damn about the New York Football Giants, team that I adore and a team that I will continue to support probably until the day I die. It is what it is. The life of being a fanatico for a fan is not easy, but man, is it rewarding when things are right. Until next time, I am out, and I hope you guys have a very productive and prosperous week. See you guys soon.